Shalom, shalom, giving all praises to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushua, by Hashem Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS that rule and teach well in the scriptures. Salutations to the Akim that are doing this work in truth and faith and in all sincerity. Today's lesson is going to be about basically news and prophecy, what's going on with Iran, what they have, what they plan on showing the media, etc., etc. So without further ado,
mysteries surrounding the U.S.-Iran war is why the economic toll from the months-long assault on Tehran has not compelled that country to make peace. Iranian officials estimated in April that U.S. and Israeli strikes had caused $270 billion worth of damage to Iranian infrastructure. Iran had to borrow heavily from the central bank to keep fighting. Inflation is expected to rise, and it was already at more than 40% last year. Ordinary Iranians are undoubtedly suffering. How has the country then not been brought to surrender by now? Part of the reason is that nations are not moved by economics alone. Nationalism, dignity, pride all play their part. But it is also worth noting that Iran's economy, as strained as it has been by decades of sanctions and now the war, has nonetheless been surprisingly resilient. For all the perceptions of Iran as an economic basket case, for all the real pain inflicted, it is also true that Iran is one of the region's more diversified, functioning industrial economies. Iran borders 7 countries and can trade over land. It also has several ports, some of which have been operational even during the war. Iran exports more than just oil. Protectionist policies and entrepreneurship have fostered booming industries such as steel, petrochemicals, iron, and food products. Iran has adapted to international sanctions by producing more of what it needs at home, including cars, pharmaceuticals, and home appliances. These goods are not always internationally competitive, not by a long stretch, but they do cater to local demand, and that helps the country during wartime as well. And as for the oil, the Wall Street Journal reports that an increasing number of transactions are taking place, but in Chinese yuan rather than dollars, helping Iran evade sanctions. In 2024, Iran earned an estimated $43 billion in oil revenue, and the journal found that most of the sales were made in yuan. Tehran also uses cryptocurrency to evade sanctions, which is similarly hard to track. And it's crucial to understand that Iran's elite directly benefits from the way the economy works right now. That is, in an opaque system controlled by shadowy interests, including the country's clerics and its Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. As Kayhan Valadbegi writes in Phenomenal World, after the Islamic Revolution, the government seized elite assets and distributed them into 2 camps. Some, like banks, insurance companies, and heavy industries, were nationalized and run directly by government ministries. Others, including the Shah's foundations, were distributed to social organizations known as bonyads, which answered to the clerics. The bonyads headed reconstruction and relief efforts surrounding the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s and grew into sprawling conglomerates over time. Many of the nationalized industries were eventually privatized, and many of those companies ended up in the hands of the IRGC, Valadbegi writes. Today, the IRGC's commercial interests span Iran's shipping, construction, oil, car making, and telecom industries. And as Reuters notes, sanctions have reinforced the Revolutionary Guard's control of the economy because it facilitates clandestine exports and trade through intermediaries and shell companies. In other words, they control the smuggling. It is now estimated that the IRGC and the bonyads control more than 50% of Iran's economy. And as Reuters notes, whenever post-war reconstruction is attempted, the Guard Corps will be a main beneficiary because of its dominance in construction and engineering. Iran's economy has, of course, operated at the expense of ordinary citizens, but there are millions of people who benefit from proximity to the regime. As the journal reports, members of the volunteer paramilitary force, the Basij, and the IRGC can enjoy positions in government-linked companies or access to cheap loans. One of the many problems with Donald Trump's approach to Tehran is that he acts as though he's dealing with the straightforward imperatives of a normal market economy. But Iran's economy is dominated by a web of perverse incentives. Sanctions and isolation are bad for the country, but they are good for its rulers. For all the pain that the United States and Israel have inflicted on Iran since they began the war, they've also given that country a powerful gift of sorts, the opportunity to demonstrate to the world control over the Strait of Hormuz. The strait handled about 20 million barrels of oil a day before the war, 1/5 of the world's total oil supply. By exerting control over the waterway, Iran has brought about what the International Energy Agency calls the largest disruption to global oil supply in history, sending oil prices soaring. But Iran's weapon might be one with an expiration date on it. As the Wall Street Journal reports, Gulf countries are already scrambling to build up oil infrastructure to bypass the strait. In May, the UAE said it would speed up the construction of a second pipeline to its storage hub in Fujairah, which lies just beyond the Strait of Hormuz. Saudi Arabia has redirected oil from the strait to its western port of Yanbu via its east-west pipeline. That infrastructure, built up during the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s.
Okay, I gotta stop that and pause it. Strategically, the way that they're trying to bypass it makes no sense. You're still touching the land of Iran, and doing so is just going to escalate the war. It's not going to make it die down any more than what's going on right now. It's not going to do anything but escalate. So with that being said, whatever plans or strategies, know this, that Yahweh Shem Yahushua reigns supreme, and his word does not come back void.
Is moving nearly 7 million barrels a day. Before the war, it moved just 2 million barrels a day. And the journal notes Gulf countries are also talking about speeding up the construction of a rail corridor that would offer another route to move oil. These solutions are imperfect. Pipelines are expensive and complicated to build, and they're vulnerable to drone attacks, and trains cannot move as much oil as ships, nor as cheaply. Another strategy is not to find new paths for the supply of oil, but to reduce the demand for it. As the World Economic Forum notes, many countries are adopting energy-saving policies to do just that. Indonesia and Myanmar have devoted 1 day of the week for public sector employees to work from home. Other countries have reduced school days or increased remote learning. Many countries are rationing fuel. But no country's attempts to slash oil imports and demand have been as consequential as those of the world's largest energy importer, China. Today, China...
This is Matthew 24:6, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, and see that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and that's what we're saying now. Kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, pestilence, earthquakes. We just seen Colombia get hit with a high magnitude of earthquakes also. Beforehand, as Venezuela, fucking you Northern Kingdom, fucking y'all up. So, that's just, it's a warning sign of the times. Probably your last few warnings before judgment actually unleashes in its full capacity. Okay, back again, 24:7. For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. One major thing that's being hated of all the other nations, okay, that here at GMS Preach and a lot of the other Israelite camps is that all the other heathen nations are going in captivity. They're going into hardcore bondage and slavery. Number one, because they're not chosen. Okay, they are not. They have not